Hi everybody, this is Kay Gray. It's been a while since I've recorded anything and I would like to get back into it. I'm going back to school for a second bachelor's degree in psychology and I'm starting this Tuesday, a couple days. So um, my videos might be a little more rambly and a little less focused and a little less edited, but um, seeing as I'm going back to school, I think that I'd like to continue talking to you. It's been a crazy few months. I tried to make my way across the country. I got as far as Montana, and snow and people not wearing masks really stopped my going forward. So we turned back. We're going to try again maybe in the summer. But that was really the reason that I got off track. Like I made the videos I wanted to make, and then I wanted to do that. So once I stopped doing a thing, it's really hard to get back into the rhythm. So, but I'm going back to school now, and at the same time, I'm taking some classes on animism and reconnecting with ancestry, which are so far pretty cool. I don't have enough focus and time to devote to it as much as I want, but I think they will both inform each other. And this is actually what I want to talk to you about today, is a balance between science and spirituality that I think it's a very timely topic, because what we're seeing right now is what happens when extremism takes over. And I have always sort of tried to be, at times, a still balance, at times a pendulum, but I have always seen value in opposing ideologies and opposing ways of living. And I used to struggle with it because I thought that there was some way to weave them together, and there unfortunately isn't, but that's why I became sort of a pendulum. At the same time, I'm able to see the balance between science and spirituality in my own mind, and I try to straddle both. Extremism has no place in human sustainability on this planet. We cannot be extremists if we want to survive, if we want to thrive, if we want our kids to survive. What it is, extremism is, and it is an addiction, it's an obsession, and it's never the full truth. The truth is always somewhere in the middle, and that's it. You know, I've really struggled to find a home even online, because whenever I join a group that has a certain set of like ideologies, I always disagree, and I disagree with ways that make people uncomfortable. And so yeah, I generally keep to myself, and I've learned to keep to myself, but I think that it is super important to be able to see value in both. In my opinion, spirituality grew out of humans trying to explain how things work. And in essence, it was the first version of science. It was our way of noticing things, taking subconscious statistics, and then attributing reasons for those statistics. Of course, there's human error, there's bias, there's manipulation. There's all sorts of reasons why the things that we notice with our eyes in our own personal experience is not enough information to form a cohesive theory about why something is or isn't. At the same time, as we were evolving to have a desire for explanation, we also evolved to have a great need for imagination. And I still haven't looked up why imagination makes makes our brains explode with excitement and inspiration. I'll get to it at some point. But the point is that we absolutely need it. And for me personally, like, I become suicidal when I don't have enough imagination in my life. And why I can't cling to hard science for too long is because it becomes flat. And the whole world becomes flat, and I lose that chemistry that makes me inspired, because it's like, kind of makes the world really small, I guess, and predictable. And that's not the full truth. Many of us experience things that don't have an explanation, an easy explanation. Personally, I have experienced telepathy with many people. My daughter experiences it too, and we trade thoughts quite often. Other people talk about that they have seen ghosts, and how many people have talked about a concept of the afterlife. And I really don't subscribe to religion, because I think that it is trying to put a scientific box around spirituality, and that's kind of not the point. The point is that we evolved to need spirituality, and whether or not the things that we believe are true, the point is that we need to believe in things in order to be whole people. The problem happens when we become extremists in those spiritual thoughts, and we become afraid that if somebody were to disprove those spiritual beliefs that we have, that it would shatter our whole reality. And so we attack people that disagree with us. And the same thing happens for science. And I mean, real true science is only 50 years old. People will say it's 100, 150, but really, if you think about it, the science that we have today stems from racism, it stems from homophobia and sexism. Like, straight white dudes have been doing science. Great. There have been really amazing breakthroughs. And, the fact that we have a vaccine for the coronavirus so soon, and it's like this incredible technology, it's no joke. It's an amazing feat of scientific thought. However, the fact that it is fraught with oppression and exclusion means that it is extremely limited. It's extremely new too. So spirituality we have had for probably hundreds of thousands of years. We have been asking, what are we doing here and who we are, for a really long time. And our current version of science is really pretty new. So it's going to be flawed. So I think that it's really important to see both. And this is why I'm studying both psychology from, science, like people say it's a soft science, but it's still a scientific perspective. And I love neuroscience, especially because then you have the building blocks. It's sort of like, you need to know chemistry in order to understand biology. For me, in order to understand how people work, you have to know the neuroscience. You have to know how the brain works and what it's doing. And, people say love. What is love? Love is a meaningless word. When you get to the nitty-gritty of the chemistry and the functionality of the brain, then you can start defining how people feel about each other. I tangented. So I don't know what I'm saying. So I'm studying both psychological thought, and I'm studying spirituality in terms of animism teaches you that everything has a spirit, and everything is alive, and everything is sacred. A pretty simple concept, but it's not a scientific concept, and the two are at odds with each other the way that they're described, because one asks you to show data and the other one asks you to just trust. And I think that there is an overlap there. I think that you can use one in order to work with the other. But you have to give each other space. You have to stay curious and say, I don't know everything. Whether you're, more on the scientific side or more on the spiritual side, you have to be able to say, I don't know everything. What do you know? What have you found to be true? And I think that this extremism that we're experiencing is going to be the death of us if we can't get off this train of, I know everything and you're wrong. Like, it's literally going to kill us. So I urge you that if you want to grow and if you want to be a happier person, instead of, being steadfast and saying, no, this is how it is, be a little bit curious that maybe you don't know everything and maybe there isn't enough information for everything. Every scientific study that's ever been done came out of a curiosity. It came out of a person or a group of people noticing things that they didn't necessarily have science for yet, and then doing studies and tests to see how close they are to the truth. So in order to get to that point, you can't just go off of what you can see and what you can experience. You have to engage your creativity. So, I guess this is kind of a plea at this point. Maybe a few months ago I would have said it's a request, but at this point, seeing as half the country is falling into a rabbit hole of extremist views, we're in a super dangerous place. I suppose that I personally fall, like I said, I'm kind of the balancer, right? So we have a lot of people that just trust their priests or they just trust their friends and don't trust anybody else. So I pull back and I say, wait, okay, we need science. We need facts, right? And then when I encounter a whole bunch of people who are like, it's hard science, like blah, blah, blah. For example, and this one's going to be super controversial, vaccines don't cause autism, right? Okay, I know that half of you are already mad at just me saying that. Side note, the CDC doesn't recommend that people with autoimmune diseases or who are immunocompromised take certain vaccines. People who have autism are immunocompromised or have autoimmune disorders, many of us. There has been some information coming out that autism is an autoimmune disorder. So we're at the very beginning of understanding that, and autism is not a psychological disorder. It's a body-wide, it's a biological, medical condition, and until we start seeing it as such, we are going to keep dying young because people are not taking all of our issues in at once. So it's kind of a tangent, but it's also sort of on point that people noticed that taking certain vaccines made autistic traits more intense. There's not a lot of evidence towards this yet, but the fact that some people notice this is worth exploring. And if you just cut it off and say, extremist view, just trust your doctor, there's a lot of us who have had really bad experiences with doctors because they don't ask us how we feel. They just go off of the data that they have had up until then, which are ableist, sexist, racist, all of that. So yes, science, but yes, spirituality, and yes, curiosity, and listen to each other. Listen to each other. Otherwise, we are all going to die. A lot of people have died already from this virus. A lot more are going to die if we continue to insist that it's our way or the highway. It doesn't take a lot to wear a mask. It doesn't take a lot to stay at home. I know that it seems that way, but the people have done it before. And if you don't do that, then you're really being selfish, and I know that you're also scared. I get that. But at this moment, me, my person, my experience, please stay home, wear a mask. If you are healthy, please get the vaccine, and stay curious.